Everyone, welcome back to our file folder journal series. This is part 57. No, I'm just kidding. This is part 8. But it feels like part 57. Where we left off, we were going to put our journal signatures that we made into our file folder. So let me take these out. This is my original one, my sample, so to speak. And the first thing I'm going to show you, and some of you may already know how to do that, so, you know, no big deal, but I wanted this series to be doable for everyone, no matter their skill level. So even if you're a beginner, I want you to be able to do this. So we're going to do all the steps, just like I promised. So we're going to put our elastics in. And so to do that, we're going to need some elastic. This is, let me measure it. I forgot to do that before we got on camera. This is, I believe it's 2mm elastic, although 3mm would be great. So 2 or 3mm elastic. And then you're going to need some eyelets and a way to set eyelets, some sort of eyelet setter. I have the Crocodile. This is the Crocodile Big Bite, and then they make a smaller Crocodile, or they make some off-brand eyelet setters that will work for you. If you don't have an eyelet setter or elastics or anything like that, and you're not worried about whether or not your signatures are removable, I'm also going to show you how to just sew them directly into your journal cover as well. So if you already know how to do all these things, you can fast forward or skip this video, whatever you want to do, but let's get started. So grab my pencil and my ruler. And this particular journal has 2 signatures in it. So you should have already got all of your papers put in there, and we haven't done anything to them other than cut them and get them ready. I've put a paper clip here to keep them together. So we have 2 signatures, and I would like for them to be sort of evenly spaced in my spine of my journal. So, you know, I'm going to kind of look at that, and I realize then that I'm going to need 2 markings, or 2 eyelets at the bottom, 2 eyelets at the top. Essentially, I'm making 3 spaces. Let me zoom you down. I'll show you what I mean. Creak. Sounds like my knees. Our spine was 1 inch. And I'd like to sort of evenly space these eyelets. Maybe right about there and here. That is just not a really good even measurement. You know, it's kind of hard to divide 1 inch into 3. That makes it 0.3333 for each section, which is a really odd measurement for American measurements or standard measurements. But you can also just sort of eyeball it and turn my eyelets over. I just want them to sort of be even. That's all. That's all I'm really doing. Yeah, that looks pretty good right there. So my first eyelet I'm going to put in is going to be about close to 7mm away from the edge of my where my spine starts. Which, let me turn my ruler over. About 1/4 inch in. So that's what I'm going to go with. I am about 1/4 inch from the edge of my spine. Let me mark this one about 1/4 inch in. So it doesn't have to be exact. We're just sort of eyeballing it, okay? All right, so I've made 2 measurements. My spine starts here and here. Okay, that's my spine. So I went from the edge of my spine and I went about 1/4 of an inch in. I went from this side of my spine and went about 1/4 of an inch in, and I drew a line. Now, I'll turn this sideways. Now I'm going to go up. This is the tricky part. Let me slide this over. I want to make sure that my journal signatures fit between my eyelets, okay? I don't want them smooshing on the edges. So I'm going to put my eyelets just a little bit on that side. And on this one, I'll put my eyelets a little bit on this side. I want to make them bigger. I want my eyelets to be longer than my journal signature. I'll show you what I mean. So for instance, see on this one, my journal signature fits inside my eyelets. Okay. See what I mean there? Okay. It doesn't overlap. It fits right inside. It makes a little bit less wear on the corners of my thing, and it doesn't make my elastics stretch in a weird way. So let me give you that measurement I decided on. I am just over 1/4 of an inch from the bottom. I'm going to go, yeah, 1/4 inch should do it. Let me see. Let's go about maybe 1/8 of an inch more. I'm going to go 3/8 instead. Okay, and 3/8 up on this side. Right about there. Let's see. 3/8 and 3/8. I'm just checking my measurements. Okay, and then where that crisscrossed, that's where I'm going to punch my hole. Okay, so I went 1/4 of an inch in from the edge of my spine on this side. I went 1/4 of an inch over from my spine on that side, and then I went from the bottom and marked a line about 3/8 of an inch up. Okay, down and do the exact same thing on this side. I'm going to go in from the edge of my spine. I'm going to go in 1/4 of an inch, make a line. I'm going to go in 1/4 of an inch, make a line. Then I'm going to measure from this edge. I'm going to go up 3/8 of an inch, and where it crisscrosses each of those, that's where I'm going to punch my hole. Okay. All right. I'm going to mark those a little more exact off camera, and then I'm going to come back. Okay. Okay. I went ahead and marked my other one, but I just want to go over it one more time just in case. And you guys can fast forward through this if I'm bothering you. But I just want to make sure you understand. I think that came across as a little bit confusing. So if this is my cover, my file folder journal cover, okay, and here was my spine. I'm just going to draw the lines on my spine to make it easier for you guys to see it. Okay. I don't want there to be any confusion. I want this to be doable for everyone. Okay, so there's my spine, all right, and I went over about 1/4 of an inch, okay, and I made a mark, and then I went over about 1/4 of an inch again, and I make a mark, and then I went up about 3/8 of an inch. That was just what works for me. Now, you may need to adjust your measurements depending on your file folders that you're using and the size of your signature, okay? And then I went up again on this side about 3/8 of an inch. And see where those lines crisscross there? That's where I punched my holes, okay? And I did the exact same thing from this side, okay? All right, I think that might have made a little more sense that time. So there I have my holes punched on the top and the bottom. And then now I'm ready to put my eyelets in. And I'd like my eyelets to look nice from the outside. So I'm going to put the nice flat part on the outside. And then after I punch it and it looks yucky, we'll put the yucky looking part on the inside. Okay. I'll just put my eyelets in there. I'm going to put it over on the eyelet setting. And you may not be using one like mine. You may be using your own. You're a different kind, so you just follow directions for your own. I'll put that one in. There's 1, 2. Get in the hole, get in there. There we go. Fiddly little things. Okay. Squish. And squish. There we go. So now we have our eyelets. Okay, so now we're going to use our elastic. And we are, let me zoom you down again. We're going to go out the top hole. Doesn't matter which one. Okay. We're going to go back in the other top hole, whichever the other one you didn't use yet. Okay. So when you turn it over, it should look like that. All right. Now pull. And I haven't cut it to size yet because I don't know where it's going to be. Now we're going to go back out and just come right back into the hole next to it. Okay, and that's how you can do 2 elastics for 2 signatures in the same one. Okay, so you only have to have 1 tie. All right, now I'm going to pull my ends tight. And so because we have eyelets in there, we're not ripping our elastic through our file folder. Now we want it to be tight, but I also don't want it to be, you know, bringing my journal up, squishing it this way. You know, I don't want it putting too much pressure that way. So we're just going to stretch them tight, tight enough to hold your signatures, but not get your journal in a bind. All right. Oops, I'm so sorry, I bumped the camera. Okay, that should work. Tie my knot, or finish tying my knot. One-handed. I don't have anybody here to help me pull them closed. Ah, there we go. Nice and tight. I'm going to trim off my extras. And then I'm going to singe the ends just so they don't fray. Okay, so now we have 2 elastics for 2 journal signatures, and it looks great on the outside, and those are not going to pull through because we did eyelets. If you're going to do elastics, I would highly recommend that you use eyelets, okay? If you don't have eyelets or a way to set eyelets, I would not go with the elastic method. Unless you figure out a way to keep them from pulling through your file folder, because they will. So I'm going to show you an alternative method, okay? All right. This would be, again, this is so any beginner can do this project. Those of you who have been doing this for a long time, you already know how to do this. Feel free to fast forward, okay? Let's say this is my journal cover. Okay, open it up. I'm going to erase these markings down here so we don't have any confusion. Erase these markings back here. All right. So this is my journal cover. I don't have eyelets or an elastic, so I'm going to sew my signature straight into my journal. Okay, and this is how you're going to do it. Let me back you up just a hair. All right, so there's my spine. Okay, I've clearly marked it so that you can easily see it. I'm going to do the same thing I did when I was doing the elastics. I'm going to measure, basically, I can eyeball this, but I want to make sure that my signatures kind of are spaced evenly on my spine. Okay, I want them to sit nice and evenly. I don't want them all over to this side or over to that side. I'm just going to kind of space them out. And I'm just sort of eyeballing it. But I have a feeling it's going to be a lot like where it was at before. Yep, right about here, right about there. A nice even spacing between my spine. And so again, looks like I'm sticking with about 1/4 of an inch. Okay, all right, so I'm coming off my spine, 1/4 of an inch, coming off my spine on this side, that way, 1/4 of an inch. I'm going to do it up here at the top. I would be coming in 1/4 of an inch, coming in 1/4 of an inch from the other side. Okay, and now if I draw these lines together, make sure you do all this in pencil, then you can erase it. Connect those. Gives me a nice line to work with. You can totally eyeball this and not do any measuring and just punch the holes where you need to. That's fine. Okay. So here's the edge of my spine here. Here's the edge of my spine here. And then I have this line and this line, and that's where my journal signatures are going to sit in there. Okay. All right. Yeah, I could move them in just a little bit. I mean, there is an awful lot of dead space here in the middle, but that's okay. It gives them room to bulge. Gives us room to add things. Okay, now let's bring in our journal signature. And let's kind of eyeball where we want it to sit, okay? All right. That looks good. That looks evenly spaced between the top and the bottom. Okay. And now let's look. We want probably a hole right about there. So about, you know what? Let's just move it up a little bit. We're going to go up 1 inch on our journal signature. Let me zoom you down so you can see what I'm doing. So I've just laid my journal signature on my cover. I'm sort of eyeballing where I want everything to be. Here's where the bottom of my journal or my signature is going to be. Here's where the top of my signature is going to be. But that's not where my stitching is going to go. I want my stitching about here, which is about 1 inch up from the bottom of that signature. I want to go about 1 inch up there. And then I want to go roughly in the middle, which would be right about here. Okay. Here, here, and here. I'm going to have 3 holes in my journal signature when I sew it in. 1 inch from the top, 1 inch from the bottom, and dead center. That's where it's going to be. Now, I want to make corresponding marks on my cover. So that's where it was. That's my center one. And there was my top one. Okay. All right. And now I want to do that again for my second signature. They need to be in the same spot, nice and even. Here, here, and here. Okay, so where these intersect, that's where my journal signature is getting sewn in. Okay. All right, and then let me grab a scrap piece of paper. Don't really have one. This will work though. Let me zoom you out just a tad. There we go. All right. I don't need the whole thing. And I need it to be the same height as my signature was. Whatever that was. That's been so long ago now for me. I don't remember. I just want it to be the same size. Trim this. You'll see what we're doing. Hang on. All right. So I've got a little piece of paper. The same height as my pages. All right. I'm just going to fold it in half. This is going to sit inside. It's going to be our punching template. Okay. Now, remember where we had decided to make our marks? We had gone up an inch, down an inch, and in the center. I know I did this a bit out of order, but I wasn't sure what my measurements were going to be until I held it down on my file folder cover and realized, okay, yeah, that's where I want things to be. You know, sometimes you've got it all pre-planned ahead of time and you already know where you're going to have it all be. But I kind of didn't know till I sat it down there. So, all right. So we had an inch from the bottom, an inch from the top, and dead center. Mark that a little bit heavier so I can see it. And there's lots of binding tutorials out there that people have done that are going to be way easier to follow than what I just did. But like I said, I didn't have the measurements in my head yet. Okay, so open up my signature here to the center. Got a paper clip here holding it all together. And I'm going to put this inside. Okay. And see how it's already marked where I'm going to be punching my holes. All right. So now I need some kind of hole puncher. This is a Tim Holtz paper piercer. Sometimes it does okay for smaller signatures. And I'm just punching all the way through. If you are doing a big journal and you want something that's like super precise, you know, sometimes it's easier if you open a great big thick book up and then hold it down inside of there. Or you might have a book cradle, which is designed for punching. Okay, but I'm just doing 2 little signatures in a file folder journal. I don't think we need overkill. So that punched here and here and here. Oops, here and here and here. All right, and then, so if that's my first signature, I'm punching where my holes, where my lines crisscrossed, and I circled where my holes need to go. Just punching those. Be careful not to punch your finger on the other side. Okay. And then I've got some thread. This is just an upholstery thread, I think. Can't remember what this one is. Maybe this is a linen thread. This one might be a linen thread. It's not waxed, but you can wax your own, or you don't have to wax them, whatever. Waxing helps it keep from getting tangled and helps it slide and glide through the paper well. All right, that's not what this video is about. This is just getting our signature attached. Oh, don't need to sew that in. All right, I'm just going to go through the middle. And there's a couple different ways we could do this. I'm going to start in the middle and go out. Come back in. Okay. And then I could go all the way up to the next hole and come back in. Or I like to go back out the center again. Nice and tight. Make sure everything stays nice and tight while you're doing that. Back through the back side. And through my hole. If I can find it. It's around here somewhere. Sometimes, if you have a hard time finding it, put your needle back through a couple times so you can visibly see it. There it is. That makes it a little easier. Right through there. And just don't go jamming around blindly. You'll be poking through your pages in the wrong spot. You need to kind of finesse it a little. Finesse it in there. All right, I want to make sure everything is nice and tight. Check the back side. For some reason, I've got a thread right here that does not want to get tight. Sorry, that's kind of in your face. Okay. And then, okay, now that everything's nice and tight. Don't get it too tight. You don't want to rip through your pages. All right. I'm just going to run my needle underneath these threads. Pull it up. That gives me a little bit of leverage when I tie my knot. Gives me something to tie to. Okay. Give it a double knot for stability. Maybe even a triple or a quadruple. Trim your threads. And then, if you want to, it's your choice. You can even put a tiny spot of glue right there on your knot. Make sure it never comes undone. But make sure you leave it open to dry before you close it up. Okay. All right. So that is that sewn in. And then you would do your second signature the same way. You could do pretty decorative threads or pretty crochet threads, different colors, you know, if your spines are going to show. When you come out and your threads are here, this would be a time where you could even add beads and things like that. So, you know, you could just really get all decorative with that. But that would be how you would sew them in if you're doing it permanently. Okay? But I'm not. So, I'm going to cut that out of there because I need this. All right. So that's my journal signature back free again. Free. Come out of there. There we go. Bring back in my cover with my elastics. Now, this is up to you. You could take your journal signature now and just slide it in your elastics. This is my old one. Where's my new one? Here's my new one. Okay. You could just slide those in completely loose, not sewn together, which is kind of cool to do it that way, because then if you decide later you want to add a page to it, you can just slip a new page in there. Okay. Or if you mess up, you can just slide that page out and be like, yep, it's gone now. See? But I like it to where when I have a journal like this, I can pull it out of my cover. I don't have to try to journal inside here. I can slip it out, take it with me, stick it in my purse, or just, you know, set this up out of the way and just have my little small journal to journal in, okay? And my pages aren't falling around everywhere, falling out everywhere like they would be if you left it all loose, okay? So I like mine sewn together and then slipped into the elastics. That's up to you. That's a choice you're going to have to make. But But if you're going to sew your pages together, you're just going to do it just like we just did. You know, your thread, go out, back in, go out, back in, and so on. Tie your knots, okay, just like we just did, only you're not sewing it to a cover. You're just sewing the pages together, slipping it in. Okay, I hope that's pretty self-explanatory. Seems like it would be, but, you know, if you got some questions, let me know. But those are the two options for putting your signatures into your journal cover. That's all we're going to cover in this video. I'm going to finish getting my journal signatures sewn and put into my new cover, and then I'll come right back in another video and we'll move forward. Okay. All right. Thanks for watching. Thanks for joining me. I hope that was helpful if you're a beginner. If you're an experienced crafter, I'm sure that this video didn't do a lot for you, but hang in there. I'll be back next time with something else that maybe will be a little more fun. Okay. Happy crafting. See you guys later. Bye-bye.